I'm Connor Old, and welcome back to the very start of the 2019 Old Oscar Countdown series. And if you don't know, this is a series where each and every week for this is the third year now, I break down a different Oscar category and I predict the nominations. Then once the nominations are announced, I go and I see what got nominated, and I react to them, and then I predict what I think is going to win. But this part is the fun part. It's been, a while now. I did sort of my series during the summer. If you stayed tuned for that, I appreciate that. If you're back for this, that's fine too, because the Oscar race is going to be very exciting this year. Right now, I don't think there's a clear front runner. And if you don't know, it's not going to be just the actual category of my choosing for that week. There's actually going to be a lot of updates this year, and we'll be doing a little tweaking to the show, similar to last year, just making sure that those updates are as sort of relevant as possible. So not only at the beginning of the show will I sort of be giving you the rundown, but at the top of the show I'll always give you sort of the idea of what movies are sort of gaining steam, maybe losing steam, some big sort of factors, some news that was announced that changed these predictions. Of course, none of these predictions are final, especially this far out of the race for a big category like Best Picture. So I'll have an update video right before the nominations are announced, which will be my final list. But as of right now, these are my Best Picture predictions, where we may not go back to it formally, but we may do it in an update video where something maybe falls out of the race completely because of external factors that you can't control. This happens all the time in the Oscar season, and it's my job here to help you predict what's going on. So I'm super excited. Without further ado, let's go over into my front runner, who I think is going to win right now, which is Roma. I saw this movie at Toronto International Film Festival. I know not a lot of people have seen it yet because it hasn't come out until Netflix in December. They recently announced, though, that they're going to be putting it day and date on Netflix, but also in over 100 theaters. So it will be sort of widely accessible and widely seen. But I think this movie sort of has a lot of buzz and a lot of steam behind it, and a lot of sort of respect. This is a movie that people respect a lot, which I think at the very least it will get nominated. I don't want to spoil the director's episode, but Alfonso Cuarón is that lead in that category. I think he's going to win that. Every director you hear talk about this movie really loves and really appreciates this sort of technical mastery of it. But then you also have this sort of brilliant acting, specifically by Yalitza Aparicio. She's a first-time actress, and she's really, really great in the movies and sort of the emotional center of the movie. Now, that being said, I didn't personally connect to it, but it's hard for me not to respect it because of how sort of impressive it is. And I think the Oscars definitely like movies that are hard to make, and this one, they sort of stress the idea that the director was the only one who had the script and the producers didn't know what was going on. It was just a pure vision. And I think it has that sort of emotional connection to it, but also has these really great technical things. And it's kind of a movie that all directors want to make. It's like sort of full free reign of the artistry with no setbacks. And really just Alfonso Cuarón's a very deeply personal movie to it. So there's a lot of aspects to it that the behind the scenes story is really fascinating and really great. The problem being that it's a black and white movie. It's a foreign film. A foreign film has never won Best Picture. So it's going to be hard for sort of more of the commercial audiences of the Academy to really get into this. I don't know if this is just a critical movie. It seems like that right now, but the buzz behind it and the steam behind it is really strong. I mean, it won the Golden Lion at Venice, which I believe The Shape of Water did last year, or maybe that tied with Lady Bird, but I know Shape of Water was in contention at least for last year. And then I also got third runner-up at TIFF, being out movies like A Star Is Born. So I think this one actually has some fan appeal. And even though I wasn't, say, the biggest fan of it, I maybe liked some more of these other movies on this list, I still respect and understand that this is a strong contender. And right now I see this as a movie that, similar to almost like 12 Years a Slave, because at times it can be very emotional. It's a movie you can't not like. There aren't sort of holes that you can poke at it. It's very sort of hype proof. It's not like the movie's like it is being hyped out to be the greatest movie of all time, but it's not as commercial. So when people tell you to watch it, it's sort of there's these critics groups that are telling you to watch it. So I don't think that sort of criticism and sort of backlash that we see with movies like Three Billboards Outside Ebbing, Missouri, or even La La Land that cost them the Oscars, I don't think that's going to occur with Roma, which is why, even though it's black and white, it's foreign film, yes, I still think it's going to win because the Academy, you have to realize, is more international now. They're getting definitely more diverse, and this sort of fits into line with what they've been choosing with these movies like Moonlight and The Shape of Water, more art house type movies. And with, I had sort of an emergency episode with the best popular picture category, but because of the backlash, they sort of backed off on that, and that's not going to happen this year. I think that this one, maybe they would want to do something more popular, but I think this is just emblematic of what the Academy really is, which is we're going to choose this art house sort of smaller movie by a big time director because they really like it. All right. And then number 2 is A Star is Born. This has been sort of a huge commercial hit. It played at all the festivals. I've also seen this. I really enjoyed the movie. But unlike Roma, I actually can see backlash coming through. I think this is maybe one before La La Land, where you think, oh yeah, this is the winner. Of course it's the winner. Well, La La Land kind of proved us wrong, that especially musicals like this that have come out sort of earlier in the year that get a lot of hype like this one is, start to slow down in January and sort of get the backlash. And I know personally, even though I really enjoyed the film, there are some sort of negative criticism I can point to it. I personally was a big fan of Lady Gaga's acting in some moments, which I think I'll be the minority in. But also more apparent is sort of the sloppiness and sort of the weird, odd pacing and editing and poor choices in the second half. The first half is so great that the second half really pales in comparison, and there are some sort of I think personally directorial choices and editing choices that are poor, that sort of make the story go on for too long. So I think that while this is a movie people love, this is a movie that right now is a front runner for Best Actor and Best Actress and even Best Supporting Actor, all those 3 categories. I think it's a movie that can receive the backlash, and I don't think that's a Best Picture candidate, even though so many people do. I'm not 100% sold on it just yet, even though the nomination is pretty much a sure thing. Also want to note that it's going to run as a drama in the Golden Globes, which will really tell us how it shapes up against these other movies and whatnot, but also tell us a lot about how the Oscar season is going to go, because both this and Bohemian Rhapsody are going as dramas, not comedy musicals. So it's going to be a really interesting thing to sort of set. So sort of the Golden Globes will be a good test this year. So stay tuned for those. Now we're to my third pick, Green Book. Now this is almost this high up because not only do I think it has a pretty good shot at sort of getting a lot of nominations, but it's also because of the TIFF stat. This one, People's Choice at TIFF, it came out really out of nowhere. People loved it, and really sort of the word of mouth on this movie is fantastic. And I have a stat here that says the movie that won Best People's Choice Award at TIFF, 8 out of the last 10 years got nominated for Best Picture. Those stats are sort of hard to deny. Last year, 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri. The year before that, La La Land. The year before that, Room. These are sort of the movies that really connect with audiences, because TIFF is not just purely a critics thing. I can go to it, the normal people can buy tickets and purchase it and go to the festival. So it's really emblematic of people who are really big fans of movies, the critics, but also some of the people who work on it, because this is sort of the biggest film festival in the world. And for it to win sort of best sort of People's Choice Award there, I think it's a really great sign for this movie. Now, I can't say too much about its merit because I haven't seen it, unfortunately, but I've heard great things. Viggo Mortensen being a standout, Mahershala Ali, Viggo Mortensen being a frontrunner in Best Actor, Mahershala Ali being a frontrunner in Best Supporting Actor. I think Peter Farrelly gets in for Best Director, even though the movie is sort of not flashy or anything. It's just a classic sort of, people like just sort of Driving Miss Daisy, but maybe for the modern era, it's sort of a classic feel-good, heartwarming story, crowd pleaser. I think this definitely gets nominated. And then First Man. I was high on this movie when I saw it at TIFF. It has gone maybe a little bit down in my estimation because of sort of possibly, it's not doing that great at the box office. That being said, I think it's going to be a movie that sustains and lasts. I don't think it's just going to drop off. Plus, you got Venom and A Star is Born. But then the problem is you have Halloween, and then it goes into the sort of Thanksgiving season. But I can see this being a movie that makes $8 million sort of consistently. throughout its weeks. But this is also very the typical classic Oscar movie in regards to its just a grandiose sort of space epic. We've seen this with The Right Stuff or Apollo 13. They're not sci-fi, they're very much human dramas, they're very much American films. There was some bit of controversy that the American flag wasn't shown being planted in the movie, even though it's in the movie. I think that's sort of hyperbole, because that's sort of the American audience that didn't respond to it. But there's international members of the Academy too, and they'll still like it because, in my opinion, it was very American, it was very rousing and very much into the space race. But it did have sort of an emotional connection to it, which I think the critics will appreciate. Excuse me. There's a human sort of home drama that sort of maybe the critics will appreciate, and the writers will appreciate of the Guild, and the actors. And there's amazing technical stuff with sort of going to the moon that I think sort of a lot of the crafts people will appreciate. And I think this movie will get maybe the most nominations, definitely up there. It's going to be very high in nominations, and I think especially because of the technical prowess of this film. Plus, this is from Damien Chazelle. Both Whiplash and La La Land, the last two movies, got nominated for Best Picture. I think this is a front runner, maybe not for the win, but maybe not even for any wins, but definitely for nominations. I really enjoyed the movie, and I think you should check it out too. Well, then 5 of 10. You're looking at Yorgos Lanthimos' The Favourite. Now, I was very surprised when I sort of heard buzz from it, but the buzz around it is very good, and very sort of more commercial than Lanthimos' things. That being said, it's still sort of odd and quirky, and it's not The Lobster or The Killing of the Sacred Deer, but it is in that sort of realm. Plus, Fox Searchlight, the company behind this, is really pushing this, particularly for the acting. People think maybe Yorgos Lanthimos could get in for Best Director because the film is strong, but I think the acting, we could see sort of 3 billboards outside Ebbing, Missouri, where Rachel Weisz and Emma Stone, who are competing in supporting actress, both get in, and then Olivia Colman win for Best Lead Actress. I think this is definitely a possibility. It's an acting showcase for sure. It can get some, it might not get actually some of the technical things as much as a lock as we think, because it's actually not that historically relevant. That's not sort of the point of it. But the costumes are still extravagant. The production design, as you can see, is sort of elaborate, and we see one of these type of movies come along, and it's sort of a different type of that. It's very weird. It's very much sort of a drama, sort of backstabbing kind of operatic kind of movie. I'm very excited to see it. I haven't seen it yet, but I've heard the acting across the board is great, and the movie has a lot of buzz and a lot of push from its studio, Fox Searchlight. So I definitely think this is going to get in for a nomination. All right, now moving over into my 6th pick. All right, this is sort of my hot take of the Oscar season, which is my belief in this movie, especially getting nominated and having a very good run. Can You Ever Forgive Me? This is another sort of surprise breakout hit from TIFF, and a sort of a transformative role for Melissa McCarthy. And these two people right here, Melissa McCarthy and Richard E. Grant, are the reasons to see the movie, and the reasons why I think it's going to be such a strong contender, and why I put it so high up in the nominations where people don't even have it at all. I haven't seen the movie, but I've heard sort of a transformative performance from Melissa McCarthy. She's sort of known as being the sort of the comedic actress, but now this is very much more of a serious, dramatic thing, so it's very different from her. So I think she's actually going to get nominated for her performance. I also think Richard E. Grant right now is my winner for Best Supporting Actor. I've heard sort of great things about him as a sort of peer to Lee Israel, I believe, is Melissa McCarthy plays sort of, it's a biography about an author. I don't know too much about it because I tried to sort of stay away, so I have the first experience as intended. That being said, I've heard just great things from both the actor and the actresses, and then also the screenplay. This is a biography, it's about a writer, so I believe it's adapted screenplay. Yes, it is adapted. So I think if it gets in for adapted, which is a relatively strong category this year actually, but if it gets in for adapted and it gets in for these two, how can it not get for Best Picture? I think some people maybe haven't made that connection yet, but it's a crowd pleaser. It did very well at TIFF. It was a surprise hit. The question is sort of the backing behind it, but I think this is my hot take. I think this one's gonna get the nomination. Then to my next one. Speaking of transformative performances, boom, Vice. This is from director Adam McKay, who 2 years ago, 3 years ago now, no, 2 years ago, yes. Or was it 3? We'll say 3. Did The Big Short. Yes, it was 3 now, 2015. And that was another sort of transformative performance from a great ensemble cast, won the PGAs. People thought, so highly of it. I really enjoyed the movie too, and after seeing the trailer for Vice, I'm super excited for this movie too. Now, I have to, of course, mention my bias for someone like Amy Adams, who's in the movie, who I think, by and large, is my favorite actor of all time. I think she's really great, and I think she's going to get nominated. I think Christian Bale's going to get nominated for Best Lead Actor. It's just a movie that they sort of like. It's from a director they like and sort of appreciate. It's a political movie, which is very, very relevant now. With the midterm elections in the States. I don't know too much about that, but I know elections are happening in the States, so that'll be sort of a hot button issue, and this will capitalize on that political momentum and elicit sort of these strong emotional responses. The reason why it's here is because we don't know how strong the movie is, because no one's seen it yet. So we don't know if it's going to be sort of pushed that well, but just the cast overall, Oscar nominated Steve Carell, Oscar winner, Christian Bale, Oscar winner, Sam Rockwell, 5-time Oscar nominated Amy Adams. And I think if there's a narrative for anyone to win, it'll be Amy Adams in the Best Supporting Actress. So if she sort of builds steam on that front and wins her Oscar for that, then I think that the movie in 2 will get nominated. And I think if it starts to do good, we can start to see this movie gain a lot of steam, do well at the box office. It comes out in December. I can definitely see, it starts to do well, then get in maybe potentially for original screenplay, I believe. Maybe based on a biography or something, but we'll say original screenplay. Editing, I think, is a very good possibility, and I also think a lot of the acting nominees, definitely just from potentially Sam Rockwell, and then these two, I think, have a pretty good shot as well. So Vice, stay tuned for that. No one's seen it yet, but I think this one could definitely rise. So stay tuned for Vice. I'm very excited for it. I can't wait to see it. Boom. This is another movie I saw, If Beale Street Could Talk. This is from director Barry Jenkins, whose last film was Moonlight, and that's maybe the main criticism against this movie and why I think I have it so low down this list, even though I enjoyed the movie. It's because it's not Moonlight. And, Moonlight was such an amazing movie that all the sort of flaws and maybe sort of issues that people have with this was like, oh, well, it's not like Moonlight. It doesn't do this like Moonlight. Because you're coming off of such a huge sort of critical surprise indie hit, where when I saw that TIFF, it was just a small indie movie that went on to win Best Picture. This movie has a lot more behind it, and a great ensemble cast, established actors like Regina King, there's also some great newcomers. But right now, it has a lot of sort of commercial and sort of critical appeal. It was a second runner-up at TIFF, which is a big deal. That I was actually surprised that it was number 2. I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't showing up at all, but it did. So that really shows the strength of it. But the buzz behind it is really low. Regina King's maybe the big solid one, an adapted screenplay for Barry Jenkins. And even director for Barry Jenkins, I think, is less and less possible, even though I sort of really respect him a lot. I'm sort of losing faith in If Beale Street Could Talk, but just because of how much they loved Moonlight, and how much this is still a very good movie and has a lot of technical aspects that maybe could get him nominated. In some of the technical aspect, and maybe score or cinematography, I think this movie is still strong enough to get the 8th slot. And into the 9th slot, this may surprise people, Black Panther. I don't know why I'm doing this. I do it every year, but I bet on a superhero movie, even though they let me down every year. And I have this actually low on the list because it's a superhero movie. Because if it was Best Popular Picture, it would have won easily and would have got nominated. But now, because it's not there, people are questioning, oh, will it even get nominated now? The thing is that it's tough because it was a cultural phenomenon, particularly in the States. I mean, it made, I think, like 700 million domestic or 600 million domestic. It was an insane amount of money domestically. It was really, everyone who saw it. I mean, it was one of these big sort of event films. That being said, it's part of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which a lot of times feels like sort of a cog in a machine. It feels like it's run by a studio. There's no sort of individual sort of prowess to the film, and you could say maybe something like Thor Ragnarok has that individual humor, and Ryan Coogler definitely brings a unique racial sort of topic to this movie with his experiences. So something like Fruitvale Station, especially with the villain of Killmonger, who Michael B. Jordan actually has a chance to get nominated for that performance. But I think because of this cultural phenomenon, I have to get in here because people love the movie. both critics and audiences. The problem being is that there's not sort of a direct sort of auteur vision. Like, this is someone's statement. This is part of a cinematic universe, and it's part of a machine. And by the time this movie is already come out, we've already had Infinity War, Avengers Infinity War, and Ant-Man and the Wasp, and Captain Marvel will be coming out. So it's already the sort of 4 Marvel movies behind. It's last year's news. It doesn't feel as relevant maybe as before, but I enjoyed the movie. I hope to get nominated. Even though it's a superhero movie, it'll be the first one since The Dark Knight. And a lot of people are comparing it as the best superhero movie since The Dark Knight. So you never know. On my 10th slot, I don't know. Yesterday I had Mary Queen of Scots. Maybe today I have Bohemian Rhapsody. Maybe some people are surprised I don't have Black Klansman on the list. Right now I think that movie, for example, is losing a lot of steam. I don't think it has sort of a chance even. It could be director, but not really any of the supporting actors. It doesn't have sort of actor support. So I think that movie's sort of losing steam. I think it premiered a little too early for that. So I've lost faith in the Black Klansman. Bohemian Rhapsody just has so much sort of drama behind the scenes that I'm not sure. Plus, it's going in Golden Globes as a drama, which I don't think it's going to get nominated for. Rami Malek is the only chance of that movie, which is maybe why it's ahead of the pack. And then you have something like Mary Queen of Scots. No one's seen it, but it has sort of that typical Oscar Bell where it'll get a lot of the technical aspects. Plus, I think Margot Robbie right now is actually a potential number 5 slot for Best Supporting Actress. She seems maybe to be the standout. Plus, Saoirse Ronan, I mean, you never count her out because they love her and she'll get nominated almost every year. Just kind of one of those people. I don't have Widows here, but that's another potential one. Viola Davis could get in for Best Lead Actress, but I don't think she will because I don't believe in the strength of Widows either. This 10th slot, there's only going to be 8 nominations, I think, this year, maybe 9. And this 10th slot really is really up for grabs. We'll say for right now it's Mary Queen of Scots just because it's the unknown that maybe could build steam. It's hard to tell, or even something like Clint Eastwood's The Mule, which is more of a commercial pick, I think, may sneak in here because it sort of can follow the $1 Million Baby projection. And with the sort of hype and whatnot, the December release, I think, seems more and more eye-catching and sort of possible with something like The Shape of Water having a theatrical release in December. These sort of trends become more and more popular. So that's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode for this long-winded sort of Best Picture breakdown of everything and all my thoughts. Roma right now I think is the front runner, and if it starts winning a lot, I think it's going to win DGA, and if it wins something like PGA, I don't think it's going to win SAG, but if it wins PGA, I think that's going to be a great scenario. But I definitely see a scenario where, say, Green Book wins SAG, Roma wins DGA, and PGA goes to Vice or something, surprise. So even something like A Star Is Born. I could definitely see that as a possibility too. There's so many different factors. I think this is going to be a very interesting race. But right now I have Roma up at top, and Can You Forgive Me is my hot take. Watch out for that. And Vice, I think, would be a movie that can sort of gain steam, where something like Black Klansman is sort of lose steam. That's about it, guys. I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Stay tuned every single week. Next week we're going to be covering Best Actress. And until next time, stay tuned.